Hi, and thanks so much for joining me. Today we are ranking all of my Chanel eyeshadow palettes. If you'd like to see that, please keep watching. We will be ranking all of my Chanel palettes. I'm going to go in backwards order. So I was trying to think of the criteria to use to actually rank them. So I think these things came to mind, how easy they are to use, and also the versatility. Are these palettes that I can use frequently, or are they only for certain occasions? Starting with the lowest ranked palette, it is the 362, and this falls under the category of not used very frequently, simply because I don't think I've used it, at least not all of these pink shades at once, since I did that video. Now I did use this today. Actually, my eye look is kind of a combination of almost, not every one of them. There were probably at least 8 palettes on my eye, not all of the shades from each palette, but one shade from maybe 8 palettes. And I used this one today in that crease. So I think that's really pretty. But I also feel like this needs to be used in tandem with other palettes because it's just really tricky to get a look pulled together with these 3 and then just this one brown shade. So I think I need to use this more, but this is kind of a trickier palette to use. It's a very specific look, but the more I play with it, maybe I can figure something out. I just haven't had the opportunity to spend time using it that much. But I do like that brown shade in there. So this falls under the category of I haven't used it very much, and it's not one I pull for frequently. The next one is this newest one. It's the Tisse Vendome. This one right here. And I think the reason why this is that low, and it is a new one, so that might be part of it. I haven't learned that much about it yet. But just on first impression, this color story is not something that I think worked that well on me. I think it looked okay in the playback, but there are just other ones that are better color stories for me, I think. So if you like this though, it's a nice palette. It's just one of those things that I wouldn't pull for as frequently just because of the shades that are in here, but it performed really well. So I thought everything was really blendable, a lot more sheer than I had expected though. But a very nice palette. All of the Chanel palettes I've tried are really quite beautiful. So it was difficult to rank them, but so far this is what I've come up with. And as I accumulate more, this may shift because I may have a chance to use some of these in different ways, but this is just right now, this is where they fall. The next one is Modern Glamour 334, and this is all gray, silver, and I think it is a pretty one. I like that I have it, but it's not one that I use frequently. So this is like an occasion type palette for me because these aren't shades I normally wear. Although I do like that they're cool, and I do need to play around with this a little bit more to see more subtle looks that I can get from this. But you can definitely make an impact. There's such a nice contrast between this deepest shade and this shade. That's why I feel like this one is really quite dramatic because of that contrast. But a nice staple to have. A really great one to have in case you're looking for something more dramatic though. I don't usually do dramatic, so that's probably why I don't pull for it, but I am really happy that I have it for that very rare time when I will need it. Next up, we have the Blurry Grey palette. This is where the ranking gets really difficult because the ones you'll see up from here are really closely ranked. So the reason I put this here is because I have so many neutrals coming up, and out of all the neutrals, this is the one I pull for the least, although it is a very beautiful palette as well. There's a bit of a mix of finishes in here, which I like. There's a little bit more satin in a couple of these shades, like these 2 shades appear more satiny than these. These appear more matte. I like how there are warm tones and also cool tones in here. So to me, this is quite versatile, even though the quality may be very similar. We're talking now more about which ones I use more frequently. Then inching closer to my favorite palette, we have the Blurry Green palette. And I love this one because it has this shade in here and this shade. I love these 2 shades. Actually, let's see, I have this one on my lid right now. Actually, that's one of the shades on my lid that I really wanted to try, but you can do something more like antique type of shade here, which I think is pretty for a more understated. This one also has a lot of possibilities because these are quite neutral. And if you use this deepest shade. It almost has so much brown in it that you could pass it off as a really neutral shade. And then I think that's a really stunning green shade. Pretty palette. So this one's a little bit more interesting to me than the Blurry Grey. Then next up from that, I got this one, 288 Road Movie. And the reason I ranked this higher, even though I don't pull for it as often, is because of the unique quality of these shades here. I think they're so pretty. And I love this. I also have this on my lid. So anything with these like coppery golden shades I really love as kind of accent colors. Out of all my palettes, I really want to use this one more because of the shade. I just think it's so pretty. A little bit tricky though. You just have to be careful with application on these deeper shades. I think that these have the potential, as I've said before, with some intense colors to be patchy. So you just have to be really careful with application, but I'm willing to do that, especially for this color. Now we're in super neutral territory. We've got 268 right here, and this might not look that neutral because of this shade, but if you cover this up, these are some really nice warm matte brown shades. But yeah, I will choose this one for various reasons and use these as crease colors. I really like having those as options. So I don't necessarily wear this palette together, but I do pull these out individually. Next up, we have 266, this one right here, very neutral. It's got a more matte finish. Oh, there's still a sheen here, so they're not completely matte shade. There's a little bit of reflection coming off of this one. It gives a nice, like, cloudy is not the right word I'm looking for, but it's very soft, the whole look. It's like if cashmere were an eyeshadow, that's how these look to me on the eyes. I don't know if that was a good analogy, but it's soft. It's just a very light feeling, very soft feeling with these shades. In case you were wondering what my lip shade is, it's all of these. I started off with soft coral. I went in then with Essential Rose because I wanted to kind of cool it down a little bit. And then I went in with Intense Caramel to kind of take the brightness down. But then I wanted more pink, so I went in with a little bit of light rose. And then I wanted to kind of make it a little bit more beigey, so then I went in with Tender Beige. Yeah, I don't know if I could replicate it even if I wanted to. I just kind of add colors and balance things out until I'm happy with it. So if you have those lip duos and you're okay with getting a little bit of color transferred to another one, then I would try out some other colors just to see what you can customize. Next up, we have 308. This is a matte palette. Like I said, more neutrals. So this one is all matte, and this is a great, I think, a basic palette. If you're going to have one from Chanel, this might be my, well, this would be my second one because the next one will be my first one to recommend if you don't have any Chanel palettes. But then this one is really beautiful for a very simple matte eye, as well as so many neutrals to pull from. So that's why I would rank this one quite high. And the performance is really nice in terms of any neutral matte palette in general. I would rank this highly on that scale as well. Now for my current #1 Chanel palette, again, that's right now with what I have. Could all change as soon as I introduce new palettes and try more out. But the #1 right now, if you haven't figured it out already because I haven't measured it yet, it is the Tisse Rivoli. This is such a stunning palette just in general compared to so many of the other palettes that I've tried from other brands as well. It is stunning. There's nothing bad I can say about this palette. I love the color story. It's so sophisticated. It's not boring. I feel like neutral palettes sometimes might appear boring, but this one has a lot of interest to it, especially these shades right here. There's a little bit like mocha, mauve, pinky, brown, something going on here. These are really sophisticated shades. So the finish on here also is my ideal finish. It's a very much a satin finish, nothing sparkly, nothing too shimmery. I can handle shimmer, but I really like this type of finish. It makes eyes have a little bit of life to them. There's a little bit of a glow on the eyes, but it's nothing distracting. But I just can't say enough about this palette. And every time I've worn this, I've been asked, what is it? I've been asked to do a tutorial. I think I've done 2 get ready with me's using this already. So that tells me that even though I've done 1, I was still getting requests to do another one with this palette, and the application is the same every time really. I just will vary the intensity, but the placement's always the same. But I would like to try these as one and dones because I think all of those are beautiful one and done. So I've got to try them, but I'm so impressed with this deepest shade. I mean, all of these are pretty, but sometimes the deepest shades can be the hardest to work with. This one is so easy to work with, not patchy, blends easily, looks good every time. I'm so happy with my makeup whenever I use this. To the degree that if I just had one palette from Chanel, it would be this one. So if you're not sure which one to pick, I would pick this one first if you like this finish, if you like these colors, because I don't think you'll be disappointed. And that's it for my Chanel palettes so far. As you know, I collect at least one every month. Sometimes I'm tempted to get another one. Who knows, maybe this will pick up the pace. I do want to finish the Tisse series, go to the Blurry series, and then let me know what else you would like to see. Because you have really great ideas about what looks interesting and often steer me in a direction of what I should be looking at, so I really appreciate it. But what is your favorite Chanel palette? And maybe your least used Chanel palette? I would love to know. But that is it for today's video, so please take care of each other, stay well if you enjoyed this video. If you learned something, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and I will see you next time.